Okay, it's time now to look at what's buzzing online. James Creedon is with us in studio. Evening, James. We're going to start there with what we were just mentioning, that absolute massacre at Garissa University. I imagine still generating a lot of coverage online.
That's right, and one of the hashtags that has emerged over the weekend, Eve, is one of the figures that we're seeing as the death toll of 147, not just a number. And you can see there on the Wall Street Journal's website, they're talking about how this hashtag is being used to remember the victims of the Garissa attack. And the idea, I suppose, is to put a face and an identity to what would otherwise just be numbers. Just to give you two examples, this is Tobias. He died in the Garissa attack. To us, he's not a number. He's a son, a brother and a friend, and you have a photo there of Tobias, one of the victims. Doreen Special Rose Gaki, again, one of the victims, and 147 is not a number. They have names. So an effort being made on social media, Eve, to put a name and a face to the actual statistics.
Indeed, and I saw online some horrific photos of the classroom, the bloodied scenes. Yet a lot of people are saying not enough coverage was given to this massacre. Nothing when you compare it to Charlie Hebdo here in Paris or even the German Wings crash.
That's right, and a lot of people have been saying really that it was just quite the contrast. And Je suis Kenyan, of course, picking up on the Je suis Charlie hashtag, has been started. Now you are seeing people using those sort of hashtags online. But a lot of criticism. Why no hashtags for the murdered students of Kenya? I am Garissa, I am Kenya. Now, I think that's not strictly speaking true, but the hashtags weren't being as I suppose, shared as for previous incidents. 2 days ago, 147 students were killed in Kenya. No tweets, no hashtags, no news coverage. Again, not strictly speaking true, but it shows that people felt that this sort of thing, Je suis Kenya, wasn't present enough by comparison to, for example, Je suis Charlie, which we saw back in January became one of the most used hashtags of all time. So I suppose media coverage can be a little hit and miss sometimes, depending on the news cycles, depending on...
Well, indeed, the news cycle. I mean, this horrific event was quickly followed by an agreement with Iran, another historic accord, if you like, there. So I think that possibly took some of the coverage.
I'm sure it contributed to some of the spotlight being taken away from what happened in Kenya. Sure. But I did see, you were just talking about violent images online, there was one public Twitter account that I spotted saying that this account actually has published a lot of very graphic images of the Garissa attack, and I'm not sure if it's legible there, but when a black person is murdered and we show it because mainstream media refuses to. So this is a Somalian Twitter user, or Facebook user rather, feeling that the mainstream media attention wasn't big, it wasn't great enough. So on social media, there was an attempt to share even very graphic images, and actually Facebook was allowing those images to come through. They weren't being censored when I was looking at it earlier. Part of that being motivated by a sense that, as this hashtag says, African lives matter, and we need to share the reality, even the graphic reality of what that involves. So again, I suppose that debate coming back about whether or not graphic images should be shared to show the realities, or whether or not it's too much.
I have to say, this time it did bring it home to me, the actual horror, because sometimes you like to block what you're hearing, but when you saw the photo, it really brought it home quite a bit, as well as the stories of how people are hidden, all the rest of it.
Indeed.
James, shall we move on to another story in New York? A statue of Edward Snowden has been secretly installed.
This is an interesting one. You can see here, this is a vine.
It's a big one, actually.
It is a big one. This was in a park in Brooklyn, Eve, called the Fort Greene Park, and there was this column, you can see it there, and on top of the column, which I think had no bust, a group of artists who have remained anonymous, they spoke to Mashable.com, installed this statue. Now, they say that the monument itself is atop the prison ship Martyrs monument, even though there was no bust on top of it, which was built to honour more than 11,000 American prisoners of war who died aboard British ships during the American Revolutionary War. Now, they're saying this is a continuation of the revolutionary spirit, freedom, fighting for your freedom, and that Edward Snowden should be seen as a torchbearer for those same ideas. It's about the ideals that he was trying to work towards and push others to care about. So again, I suppose it's artists trying to point out that even if he's accused of being a traitor and having committed treason, that for many he symbolises the ideals of freedom and liberty. Of course, he was behind the NSA hack, the NSA leaks. So I suppose artist activism in defence of hactivism.
I wonder will it get to stay there?
I wonder. It might already be in the process of being removed, I would suspect. We'll see.
Finally, James, you have some bad news, and I'm horrified to read this. Bad news for tea drinkers out there.
I thought you mightn't like this story. Sorry about that. This man, he remains anonymous. This is in Little Rock, Arkansas, the Bill Clinton territory. He was taken into hospital, a 56-year-old in Little Rock, Arkansas, into the emergency room. Renal failure, kidney failure, because he was drinking, it emerged, he was drinking, I think it was 16 8-ounce glasses of iced tea a day.
Oh, it's iced tea though, James.
We're hoping that doesn't
Not
apply
proper
to
Irish
hot
tea.
black tea. But in any case, it does apparently, black tea, cold or hot, it contains oxalate, which can build up in the kidneys and lead to renal failure. But he was drinking 18 glasses a day, Eve, so I think that's probably okay for most moderate 5 to 6 cup a day.
Perhaps my mother should actually listen to this news. She always has a cup in her hand.
Right. One further piece of advice, this coming from a nephrologist. I wouldn't tell people to stop drinking tea. This is somebody from the Yale School of Medicine. But be careful not to associate it with other food substances which are high oxalate, such as spinach. So basically don't combine spinach and tea, or give up spinach.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't like spinach, perfect solution. But it's like this, next week we'll be told that tea is good for you, all the rest of it.
Right.
I'm sticking to that anyway. James Creedon there with all that's happening online. Thanks indeed for that.